Welcome to the Reducing Insurance Journal, Insurance Administration Edition. This is a weekly e-journal brought directly to your inbox. To subscribe, visit ridjournal.com. In today's issue, we are going to explore the topic Insurance Administrative Hurdles for 2023. You can also listen to us as a podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast tool. If you like video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, RID Journal. I am Naren Arulraja, your host for today's edition. Let's dive in. My guest today is Ben Tuney. Hey, Ben, how are you doing?
Hey, Naren, nice to chat with you again. One quick note here is that, this being a new podcast series, yesterday we launched our first one, and today I had to shave and comb my hair and put some gel on. It's great to be here again with you today.
Yeah, I know. We are both excited about this. The Reducing Insurance Dependence Journal, we hope will do some good in the industry by bringing experts, knowledge, ideas, strategies, so practices can, take more control of their, bank accounts and their financial situation, and of course their well-being, because right now insurance companies determine how much time goes into each patient, even, right? Because it depends on how much they pay you or not pay you. So
right, absolutely.
Now let's jump in. Today's topic is insurance administrative hurdles for 2023. What's the number one issue facing practice owners today as it pertains to insurance administrations?
Naren, that's a great question. If I were to pinpoint one thing when it comes to administration in general, and when you look at a dental practice in the United States of America, where 80 to 90% of their patients have insurance, in a large part, practice administration is insurance administration, right? The number one issue that I see right now is a shortage of qualified team members in training new team members, and a lot of practice owners are feeling forced to hire outside of the dental industry and bring in people that have little to no experience. So it seems to me that the number one struggle is training and finding areas to train new people, or even finding existing experienced people in dentistry that are willing to come back into dental practices. But even with those people that have experience, a lot of times what you see is hygienists or dental assistants that come into practices and they have to be cross-trained on how to do front office functions, right? Again, that boils down to training and the access to good training. One of our experts that we're going to bring on here in the near future, Morgan Millett, she is amazing when it comes to training and the resources. And I'm like, I need to bring her on the podcast, or we need to bring her on the podcast simply because she has one of the key tools to help practice owners not only hire new people that don't have experience, but bring them in and have protocols written for them, training manuals written for them, so that they can hit the ground running with good resources and good actionable items, so that the whole insurance administration puzzle, you start to fit in those pieces quicker. Interestingly, Naren, when I talk to office managers today, a lot of them say, I can't believe that for 7 years, my first 7 years in dentistry, I was calculating the deductibles incorrectly. So even for the existing team members, they don't have the right training, or at least they don't know where to go to find and access data or information and training protocols to help them along the way. But to me, that's probably the number one issue that I'm seeing in dentistry today, is just a lack of training.
Makes sense. So it's just you're forced to bring in new people, and then of course, how do you do that? And then how do you get them up and running well, right? So that's a really good point.
Exactly.
My next question is, what are insurance companies doing to make things more challenging? They unfortunately don't try to make the lives of dentists easy. So it's like a cat and mouse game where they are the cat, and they try to make the life for the mouse harder, right? More challenging for dental practices on claims processing side.
Oh, yeah. What actually boggles my mind is that when I get a prescription to go to the pharmacy from my doctor, I can be in my doctor's office now, and in an hour, I can be at the pharmacy waiting for my prescription, right? And the pharmacy techs would go into their nice computer and they plug in your insurance information, and then boom, you get coverage information that's real time, right? Well, in the dental practice, we don't have that, right? We have to do insurance verification and pre-authorizations and all that. And sometimes that information is not reliable, right? In talking to I'm not going to mention any of their names, but I talk to insurance executives all the time, and one of which is a dentist. And he said the number one target that insurance companies will be focusing on here in the near future are really two things. Number one, fees, in an effort to help the insurance plans be more profitable. But number two, actually, the number two that I'm going to mention is the number one focus that they have, and that's targeting certain procedure codes to increase the rate of automated denials. And that's going to be your buildups and your periodontal treatment, whether it's scaling and root planing, osteosurgery, gingival flap, mostly scaling and root planing. Those are going to be auto denied in a prefixed sort of algorithm that when you send a claim, it's automatically going to be denied. There's going to be no peer review or anything like that. And I asked, well, why? Why are you making it more difficult on the doctors? And the answer was actually very alarming. And this person said, well, the reason why is because doctors choose to accept assignment of benefit, we can delay the claims payment process by forcing them to appeal and resubmit claims. Imagine the amount of money we make in interest when we hold several $100 million in a bank account, and most of those claims are not being paid out to the doctors on time. And I thought, to me, that is so illegal.
I know, it's like you should go to jail for that kind of stuff.
But unfortunately, they have means to get around the law, and the claims denials is the number one thing I was told on what they're going to focus on next year. So interesting, huh?
Yeah, I remember watching a movie. I don't remember the exact name, but this movie is about this kid who has cancer, and insurance companies fights tooth and nail, and and this lawyer tries to fight back, this young lawyer, and it's just like, it's a game for them, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. There's a human being, there is a business owner at the other end, and it's like whatever it takes to win. And winning is, how do we, like you said, pay less in fees, and then even the few that we pay, we deny, so we don't have to pay it quickly. And maybe some people will get frustrated and say, forget it, I'm not even bothering with the appeal. It's just, so I guess it's just, it's like attrition. So it's so sad, but it's kind of, the funny thing is it's legal, right? At least it is in the US. I mean, for some reason they get away with it.
Loopholes.
Nobody goes to jail, nobody is punished.
Yeah. It's sad, but it's the reality, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's good to have someone like you, Ben, who really knows this space and who really knows this, the mindset, the mentality, and of course, then how to work with them. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that they're ever going to be an angel, but at least how do you, live with an, devil, because you have to, while you have to, I guess. So, so I think you bring a huge value add to this whole industry and this whole, all the dentists out there.
Oh, thank you.
What are 3 tips you have for practice owners in making their lives easier when it comes to insurance administration?
Good question. What I think first and foremost is you've got to keep your AR clean, especially the insurance claims. Keeping that current in the sense of not letting it go too far out. There's so many practices right now that are struggling with employees, where sometimes they forget that cash flow is what keeps the business in operation, right? And when you delay that cash flow, especially when you're dealing with submitting claims and then waiting for insurance companies to pay you 30 days down the road, it could be an issue in terms of operational expenses, covering the cost of running the business. So set up direct deposit with as many insurance plans as you can, but if at all costs, avoid the EFT fees, right? Sometimes insurance plans will charge you 2 to 3% to get paid, but where you can set up direct deposit without any fees, I would recommend getting that set up ASAP. The second thing I recommend is making sure that you fully understand the codes, right? And understand all the intricacies behind the codes. One of which is that the ADA owns the CDT. and they have a leasing agreement with the insurance industries. The insurance industries lease the codes. They don't write the codes. They are subject to what the ADA says the definitions are, and they also agree to not change those definitions. And that's a key point that most doctors don't know, is that you can appeal a claim and say, you as an insurance company have agreed to honor the definitions as they were written by the American Dental Association. And that's very helpful in the claims appeal process. The other part is when you estimate co-payments from patients or out of pocket, right? You have to bear in mind that you have to factor in the downgrades. Human nature, right? If you charge me $100 and then a month later you send me a statement for $5, most human beings would be reactive sort of in a negative way, right? What is this? I thought I paid my bill, right? So what I usually recommend in situations where you're dealing with a lot of downgrades or alternative benefits when you're processing claims is to estimate. You're charging a little bit more, having a little bit of a buffer. It's not illegal to do that. When the EOB comes back, if you've charged more than what you should have charged, of course, you make it right by giving the patient a refund. But I'm of the mindset that in order to reduce the amount of statements as well as the amount of complaints from patients when it comes to financial concerns, is you charge more upfront and you settle it by running the risk of sending the patient a refund, which isn't really a risk for me, simply because when we practice this in dentistry for a number of years, what we typically see is a happier patient base, right? Very little complaints as it pertains to money, which is the number one complaint that we typically see in most practices. But it also builds customer service. If I got a $20 refund or even a $5 refund, I'd be overjoyed as a patient, right? As opposed to $5 collection statement.
Yeah.
You run the risk of upsetting a lot of those patients. So those are three immediate things that come to mind in terms of insurance administration tips that I think might be helpful.
Wonderful. Are pre-authorizations worth it?
Absolutely. So you have to play the timing game with this. I wouldn't do a pre-auth. I most certainly verify benefits to see if that treatment is ready and available. But the risk of doing pre-authorizations is that a lot of times it takes a long time to hear back from the insurance company, right? But to me, I use pre-authorizations as a means for claims appeal, because if the claim is denied and it's the same treatment that was approved on the pre-authorization, in states like California, where the Knox-Keene Act indicates that the pre-authorization is a pre-approval. Many states honor that, by the way. That does help with the claims appeal process, but it also helps you build your data on what that particular employer account is going to cover, right? And so the pre-authorizations to me are a great way to build coverage tables, to build employer profiles in terms of what that particular patient's plan will cover for that calendar year of benefits. And then most importantly, it's a wonderful tool to use in claims denial situations where you often see this, is a claim is denied, but yet there's a pre-authorization saying that it was approved, right? So yes, bear with caution though. You have to implement pre-authorizations in a way that doesn't necessarily eat too much into your time or postpone patients into next month or next year in terms of decisions on when to get started with treatment.
Wonderful. Where do you think PPO fees will land in 2023? Do you think it's going to go up or go down?
That's actually a really great question. So the pattern we're seeing in some states is that fees will start to rebound and come up. We've already started to see this in certain states like Delta Dental of Washington, as an example, just over the last 2 years, for many of their members has started to increase fees, right? And this is sort of their way of helping with attrition, right? And we see this in many other states like Texas, Arizona, New York, Florida, where a lot of insurance plans that are, they're losing members in droves. And so the only way they can stop the bleeding in terms of keeping participating providers is to be fair on fees. So only a few insurance companies are doing that. The rest of them, unfortunately, are still risking the fee reduction protocols, which means that fee negotiations in 2023, sorry, I went back 10 years. 2023 is going to be a very, very important year for doctors to be very aggressive on their fee negotiating protocols because of that reason.
So you're saying most practices are not going to, most PPO plans are not going to play nice. You have to play hard with those guys to get every penny you deserve in terms of fee negotiations.
Yeah, that's correct. The fight is, you still have to fight and probably increase that effort significantly in 2023 to prevent any fee reductions that are being planned right now among
I
insurance
understand.
companies. Yeah.
Right. What resources do you have that will help tackle, our topic today, insurance administration challenges?
That's an excellent question. So number one, and of course, we'll bring on Morgan and interview her and get a sort of a sneak peek into her knowledge base. But the manuals that people like her have written have been tremendous in terms of front office training, insurance administration. We'll post a link in the show notes on how to at least gain access to some of the training materials that we've helped procure through her. And that way we can make it available for the members to, of course, you can purchase those on your own directly through Morgan. The other is, it's a big idea about outsourcing. I get questions all the time from my client, where can I outsource a lot of the front office functions because I'm understaffed, right? And you have a variety of different options that are out there. I have my sort of top list of outsourced companies that are available, including, we do outsource too with insurance fee negotiations. And in 2023, insurance verification at a legacy rate of only $15 an hour, which is a very, very much needed service. But I'll post in the show notes here just some resources that doctors can tap into, both ours and experts that will appear on this podcast and these series, in terms of resources that they're going to bring to the table, or they have to the table, but they're going to come on and explain the resources. But you can get a sneak peek into what they have through the links that we'll share in the show notes today.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you should definitely check out the show notes. You're going to get a lot of, value from those links that Ben will be sharing with us. Ben, thank you so much for this amazing episode. I learned a ton, and I'm sure our listeners also would appreciate this, episode with so many tips. If you love what we do here at ridjournal.com, tell your friends, share a review on iTunes or YouTube. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Till we meet again, I am your host, Naren Arulraja.